Today we have three important stories from Sudan and South Sudan. Our first story comes from Sudan, where a court has reportedly sentenced the leader of Rapid Support Force, General Mohamed Abdan Daglo, widely known as Hemedti, along with his brothers and several others, commander, to death in absentia. The case is connected to serious crime committed during the conflict in West Darfur. Our second story, it will take us to Ye River County in South Sudan, where authorities have condemned the killing of 3 civilians on Independence Day. The victims were reportedly killed in 2 separate ambushes along the Ye Maridi Road. And in our third story, we will look at a political opinion written by Dud Majogdit Newcop. He argued that peace must come before election in South Sudan and called for the unconditional release of political detainees, including suspended first Vice President Dr. Machar. These are serious developments involving justice, security, peace, political dialogue, and the future of election. Before we move on, if you are new to Changfied YouTube channel, I would like you to tap the channel by subscribing, turn on the notification bell, so whenever we upload a new video, you can be notified. Let's begin our report with a court in Port Sudan has reportedly sentenced Rapid Support Force leader General Mohamed Abdan Daglo, known as Hemedti, his brothers and several Rapid Support Force commanders to death. The sentences were issued in absentia. This means the accused people were not physically present before the court when the judgment was delivered. Well, the case is connected to serious crime allegedly committed during the conflict in Darfur, particularly in a place called El Ganina. According to the report, the court was led by Judge Al-Muiz Babikar. The accused were convicted under provision of Sudanese criminal law related to event in El Ganina and the killing of West Darfur Governor Kamis Abkar. The people reportedly sentenced include Hemedti, his brothers Abdul Rahim and Al-Koni, West Darfur Rapid Support Force Commander Abdul Rahman, and other commanders. This case is important because Sudan has been suffering from a devastating war between the Sudanese Army Force and the Rapid Support Forces. The conflict has caused enormous suffering. Many civilians have been killed, millions of people have been forced to leave their home. Communities have been destroyed, and allegations of serious human rights violations have been made against different army groups. West Darfur has been one of the areas most seriously affected by violence. El Ganina, the capital of West Darfur, became a major center of violence during the conflict. Report of killing, displacement, and attack against civilians shocked Sudan and the international community. The killing of Governor Kamis Abkar also became one of the most widely discussed incidents connected to the conflict in Darfur. Now, the court decision has brought the issue of justice back into the national discussion. But the judgment has also raised questions. A Sudanese legal expert, Al-Muhiz Adra, criticized the process and described it as selective justice. In his view, accountability should not focus only one side of the war. He questioned whether the Rapid Support Force was the only force accused of committing serious crime during the conflict. He argued that allegations against the Army, Allied Force, and militia should also be investigated. This is an important question for any country dealing with the consequences of war. Can justice be trusted if only one side is investigated? Can victims believe in the legal system if some alleged crimes are investigated while others are ignored? And can lasting peace be achieved without equal accountability in Sudan? Justice should not depend on political loyalty. If credible evidence shows that a person committed a serious crime, that person should face an independent legal process, regardless of political position, military rank, ethnicity, or affiliation. The same legal standard should apply to everyone. This is why independent investigations are important. Sudan's war is highly political. Both sides accuse each other of committing serious violations. Because of this, Any court dealing with war-related crime will face questions about independence and fairness. Supporters of the court decision may argue that victims deserve justice and that powerful command should not be above the law. Critics, however, may ask whether the process was independent and whether all sides accused of abuses will face the same level of investigation. This question cannot simply be ignored. Justice must not only punish wrongdoing, it must also be seen as fair. According to the report, the Rapid Support Force had not immediately commented on the sentences. Another judge also reportedly ordered the confiscation of Rapid Support Force assets and called for international arrest notice to be pursued against those convicted. However, enforcing the judgment may be difficult. The Rapid Support Force continue to exercise control in part of Sudan, particularly in western areas. A court can issue a sentence, but carrying out that sentence is another matter when the convicted individual remain outside the government control. This creates a major question: what practical impact will this judgment have? Will it lead to arrest? Will it affect future peace negotiations in Sudan? Will it increase political tension, or will it remain symbolic while the war continues? This question may become clearer with time, but one thing is clear: Sudan desperately needs both peace and credible justice. The people who have suffered deserve accountability. Families who lost loved ones deserve answer. People who were forced from their home deserve security. But justice should be based on credible evidence, independent institution, and equal treatment before the law. Sudan cannot build lasting peace through revenge. At the same time, peace cannot simply mean forgetting serious crime. The challenge is to create a system where justice is independent from political power and where all credible allegations can be investigated fairly. Now let's move on to South Sudan. In Yei, authorities condemn the killing of 3 civilians. We move to South Sudan. Authorities in Yei River County have condemned the killing of 3 civilians in the Krikwa area along the Yei Meridi Road. The killing reportedly happened on July 9, the day South Sudan marked its Independence Day. According to Yei River County Commissioner Samuel Ineri Malimbo, the first victim was traveling to buy cattle when unknown gunmen reportedly ambushed and killed him. Later that same day, people believed to be friend or relative of the victim traveled to the area to learn more about what had happened. But tragedy struck again. While they were returning toward Yei town, they were also reportedly ambushed. 2 more civilians were killed. This brought the total number of people killed to 3. The commissioner described the incident as shocking and deeply concerning. Authorities said a joint investigation team had been formed to investigate the killing and determine who was responsible. For the people of Yei, this was a painful way to mark Independence Day. July 9 is supposed to be a day of celebration. It is the day South Sudan became an independent country in 2011. It should be a day when citizens remember the long struggle for freedom and honor those who sacrificed for independence. But for the families of these 3 victims, July 9, 2026 will be remembered for a very different reason. Instead of celebration, there was mourning. Instead of joy, there was fear. Instead of families coming together peacefully, 3 families were left dealing with loss. The incident also raised serious concern about security on road used by ordinary civilians. People should be able to travel to buy cattle, visit relatives, conduct business, or move between communities without fearing an ambush. When roads become dangerous, they in fact go far beyond the immediate victim. Farmers may become afraid to transport food, traders may avoid certain routes, families may stop traveling, local business may suffer, communities can become isolated. Fear can slowly damage everyday life. This is why authorities must take attack against civilians seriously. An investigation should not end with an announcement. The public needs credible information about what happened, who carried out the attack, why were the victims targeted, was this a criminal act, was it connected to a local conflict? Was it political motivated, or was another factor involved? At this stage, it is important not to make accusation without evidence. The commissioners say the attackers were unknown until investigation established the fact. Speculation should not replace evidence. This is especially important in areas where communities may already have political, ethnic, or security tension. False accusation can create more violence. Rumors can put innocent people in danger. That is why a professional investigation is necessary. Authorities should gather evidence, speak with witnesses, examine the location of the attack, and provide the public with reliable findings. If suspects are identified, they should face the law through a proper legal process. Well, let's move on to our final report. Why peace, political dialogue, and election are at the center of South Sudan political debate. This part of today's program is based on an opinion article written by Dunma Jogdi Tinyakok, a former chairperson of the Relief and Rehabilitation Commission in Northern Barghazal State. The view discussed in this section are the author political argument and should be understood as opinion. The article focuses on one of the biggest political questions facing South Sudan. Should the country move forward with election while major political disputes remain unresolved? The author argued that peace must come before election. He also called for the unconditional release of political detainees, including suspended First Vice President Dr. Machar. The debate comes as South Sudan continues to face a major question about the implementation of the 2018 peace agreement, political dialogue, security arrangement, constitutional reform, and preparation for election. According to the article, former Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete visited Juba in June 2026 as part of an African Union initiative. During the visit, he reportedly held discussion with President Salva Kiir Mayardit, political stakeholder, diplomat, peace monitoring institution, election-related bodies, and parties connected to the peace process. The purpose of this discussion was to examine the political situation and consider possible way forward through dialogue. For many South Sudanese people, this issue is extremely important. Elections are a key part of democracy. Citizens should have the opportunity to choose their leader. Political parties should be able to present their programs. Candidates should be able to campaign. Voters should be able to make their decision freely. But an election is not only about putting ballot paper into box. For an election to be credible, certain conditions are important. There must be security. There must be political space. Political parties must be able to organize. Candidates must be able to campaign. Citizens must be able to speak without fear. The rules should be clear and the public should trust the process. Well, the author argued that these conditions are not yet fully present in South Sudan. He believed that unresolved political tension and the detention of political figures create serious problems for credible election to happen. One of his central argument concerned is Dr. Machar. The author believed that Dr. Machar should be released and allowed to participate freely in the political process. According to this argument, meaningful political competition cannot happen if a major political leader remains under restriction. Supporters of this view may say that an election must include genuine competition. They may argue that voters should decide who lead the country rather than political restriction deciding who can or cannot participate. Others may have different view about the country's security situation, the legal issues surrounding political leader, or the timing of election. That is why transparent dialogue is important. South Sudan cannot resolve major political disagreement through a slogan alone. The country needs serious discussion. What are the conditions required for election? Which part of the peace agreement remain incomplete? What security guarantees are needed? How can political parties campaign safely? How will dispute be resolved? Who will ensure that the electoral process is fair? These questions require clear answer. The authors strongly support an African Union-led dialogue. He argued that the process should be inclusive and should involve the major parties to the 2018 peace agreement, the other political group and wider stakeholders as well. The word inclusive is very important. A dialogue cannot solve a national crisis if major political actors are excluded. At the same time, dialogue should not simply become another meeting where leaders make speeches and then return to the same political position. A meaningful dialogue should produce results. It should identify the problem. It should create realistic solution. It should establish responsibility, and it should include a clear way to monitor implementation. South Sudan has experienced many agreement and political negotiation. The challenge has often been implementation. Signing an agreement is one thing, putting it into practice is another. The 2018 peace agreement was designed to help end conflict and create a path toward a more stable political figure. But important part of the transition have faced delays and difficulties. The other point to security arrangement, constitution making, electoral reform, and political space as key area of concern. These issues are connected. Security affects politics affect election, the constitution affect the rule of government, electoral reform affect public confidence. Political freedom affect whether parties can compete. If one of the processes is weak, the entire transition can be affected. So this is why the debate about election cannot simply focus on election date. The bigger question is whether the condition for a credible election exists. A country can organize an election quickly, but organizing a trusted election is much harder. A ballot alone does not automatically create democracy. The process matters. If people believe the outcome was decided before voting began, the election may increase tension instead of reducing it. If political parties believe they cannot campaign freely, they may reject the result. If citizens fear violence, they may stay home. If institutions are not trusted, dispute may become dangerous. South Sudan has already suffered too much from political conflict. This is why all political leaders should think carefully about the consequences of their decision. Peace should not belong to one political party. Peace should not belong to one ethnic community. Peace is a national need. The same is true for election, as election should not be organized simply to benefit one political group. It should give citizens a genuine opportunity to choose. This requires responsibility from the government. It also requires responsibility from opposition parties. Political leaders should avoid language that creates hatred. They should avoid encouraging violence. They should respect civilians. They should respect political differences. And they should understand that political power should not be more important than the life of citizens. The author used a football comparison. He argued that one side should not be both a player and the referee at the same time. The meaning is simple. For a political process to be trusted, the rule should not appear to favor only one participant. Institutions responsible for election and political dialogue should be credible. The public must believe that the process is fair. This does not mean everyone will agree on every decision. Democracy always includes disagreement, but there must be enough trust for people to accept the rule of the competition. The author also questioned whether a dialogue organized inside the current political structure can be fully trusted by all sides. He preferred a process supported by the African Union and held under conditions acceptable to the main political actors. Again, this is political position, but the broader question deserves attention. What kind of dialogue can bring South Sudanese political leaders together? The country has seen repeated disagreement between political leaders. These disagreements have had serious consequences for ordinary people. When leaders fight politically or militarily, civilians often pay the highest price. People lose home, children lose access to education, families become displaced, business collapse, humanitarian need increase, Young people lose opportunity. This is why political dialogue is not only about politicians. The consequences affect everyone. A mother in a village may never attend a political meeting, but political instability can affect whether her children eat. A young person may not belong to any political party, but instability can destroy employment opportunities. A trader may not care who wins a political argument, but insecurity can close road and market. Peace is therefore connected to daily life. When there is peace, farmer can produce food, children can attend school, business can grow, road can be built, hospital can operate, investor can have confidence, communities can move freely, and citizens can focus on building their future. This is why the question of peace before election is so important. But there is another side to the debate. South Sudan has remained in a transitional political arrangement for many years. Some people may argue that elections are necessary to allow citizens to choose their leader and to move beyond repeated extension of transitional arrangement. This concern is also important. A transition cannot continue forever. Citizens deserve the opportunity to vote. The challenge is finding a responsible path that does not create a flawless choice between peace and democracy. South Sudan needs both. The country needs peace and the country needs a credible democratic institution. The question is how to create the condition where election strengthen peace instead of threatening it. This requires compromise. President Salva Kiir and the government have responsibilities. Dr. Machar and the opposition have responsibilities. Other political parties have responsibilities. Civil society has a role. Religious leaders have a role. A regional organization, the African Union, the international community can support the process. But ultimately, South Sudanese leader must make decisions that protect the people of South Sudan. No foreign country can create lasting peace if national leaders are unwilling to compromise. And no political agreement can survive if it exists only on paper. The country needs action. If political detainees can be released safely and lawfully as part of credible peace process, political leaders should seriously consider that path. If there are genuine legal accusations against any individual, those matters should be handled through transparent and credible legal process rather than political uncertainty. If dialogue is needed, it should be meaningful. If elections are planned, the condition should be credible. If security arrangements remain incomplete, leaders should explain how they will be addressed. The people deserve clarity. Well, that's it. If you are new to Changfied YouTube channel, I would like you to help the channel by subscribing, turn on the notification bell so whenever we upload a new video, you can be notified. Thank you for watching and bye-bye.